Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 25 series, Can We Save the Oakland A's? And we are just past the trade deadline in the 2028 season. Our A's at 47 and 61 are having another decidedly below average year, 16 games behind the Mariners in the AL West, and we are 10.5 out of a wild card. So although we aren't mathematically eliminated, we are certainly not expecting to make the playoffs this year. Goals as far as this year going to be a mixed result. We're on pace to not suck completely, so I guess that is slightly positive, but we have not acquired a top player. We have not improved our international amateur fines. Granted, the 16-year-olds that we started signing in 2025 are now 19 or 20, so I don't really know why we would be expecting them to make a significant impact on the major league team quite yet, but they certainly haven't. Other goal for this year is to increase our attendance. We have increased it very modestly, but we've done that by virtue of cutting our ticket prices recently, which is going to have a negative impact on our financial performance. So we're kind of at a point in this playthrough where we're trying to keep our job, but it's causing us to make suboptimal decisions that will probably have a negative impact on us next year if our budget gets cut back because we lose some money this season because we started giving away the tickets essentially, although the price at $20 is certainly not giving them away. I'm sure it's one of the lowest in the majors at this point, and our attendance is still one of the lowest in the majors at this point. Would like to get this team up to about 75 plus wins over the last 2 months of this season. We have been playing better over the previous 2 months that we just completed. Got off to a horrible start with a 20 and 35 record in April and May, but we're actually one game over 500 in June and July. So if we can keep playing 500 baseball the rest of the way and get this win total up into the mid-70s. Not going to claim it's a successful season, but it's probably a good enough season to get us back for a 6th try in Oakland as we try to turn this team around. And as we sit here on August 1st, our pitching is actually pretty good. Our defense is excellent. The issue is hitting and scoring runs, and that's been an issue of ours throughout this playthrough. We've drafted a lot of hitters and signed a lot of IAFA batters over the last few years. Unfortunately, there's no one who is looming to help us in the near term at the major league level in a significant way. So unfortunately, on August 1st, we're already kind of looking forward to potential free agents and what we might be able to do. And the guy who is most interesting to me, if he really has that $12 million price tag, is probably Spencer Torkelson. Popular player, draws a lot of walks, hits some home runs over the course of his major league career. At this point, he's put up a 117 WRC plus. Certainly not going to be easy for us to sign him, but 12 million would be a number that we could potentially get to. We're going to be making a lot of changes this offseason. You can see where our salary obligations are expected to increase by about 20 million, and that's before even potentially adding in 10 or 12 for the likes of Torkelson. So we're going to have to get a lot of contracts off of our books. And as I noted, also hope that at the very least our budget is not cut back. We do certainly have some bigger ticket items we could be moving on from this offseason. Clark Schmidt, who hit the age 31, age 32, lose your velocity issue in OOTP 25, literally the day before they put out a patch that hopefully addressed that a bit. Set to make $7.5 million on a team option next year. He's been reasonably productive for us out of the bullpen. but with his 45 stuff and barely being able to throw 90 miles an hour, and the fact that he's not in our rotation, $7.5 million is certainly not an amount that we'll be paying for him. Kettle Marte has had a disappointing first year with us. He'll be 35 by the offseason. He's fragile physically, and he's put up just an 83 WRC plus for us this year, so he's been disappointing. Can get out of about $5 million if we move on from him. And then we've got some arbitration eligible players. Daryl Hernandez, Hunter Goodman, could potentially move on from either or both of them. Probably will bring back Mike Vassell, but we'll see how he plays this upcoming couple of months as he gets more used to playing in Oakland. Kyle Nelson, $5 million as a lefty reliever, probably not a number that's going to work. Tim Herron is injured and his career is over, so that money will be coming off of our books. So we've got the ability to kind of get the contract obligations down to about where we are this year pretty easily. The issue is if we do try to bring on a player that's going to be costing us $10 or $12 million, we're going to have to find some additional money if Torkelson ends up hitting free agency, and we think he is a reasonable option for us at that price. Another option, if the money is an issue, which it's always going to be an issue with these Oakland A's, I think, would be to perhaps try to package up some of the better prospects in our organization and bring on a young bat that could help us right away. I do feel like we've got a good minor league system at this point, but unfortunately the first draft we did in 2024, those players who were generally 18 are 22 years old now, but there's not really anyone who's knocking on the door of being an impact player for us over the next year. I would hope that by about this time next season, and when we get into September call-ups, we'll have a couple of guys that we've picked in the draft or picked in international amateur free agency over these first 4+ seasons that can start helping us, but there's nobody that's going to help us immediately. And again, into that suboptimal decision making, I am going to probably this offseason need to start making decisions to get this team more towards being a 500 team and try to keep my job, even if it means we're potentially weakening the farm system a bit going forward. So who knows whether or not there'll be a deal to do. It's always a challenge to get to pry any good players away from other teams. You generally end up overpaying. It's just a matter, is the overpay something you're willing to do or not? And we'll be exploring a lot of different options this upcoming offseason. But before then, we've still got 2 months of baseball to play. We're exactly 2/3 of the way into the season with a 47-61 record over those first 108 games. And if we go 27-27 over the rest of the way, that 500 record I was talking about, we'd get to 74 wins. Hopefully we can be just over 500 and get to 75 plus. Certainly not going to take a victory lap on a 75-win season, but it would at least represent a little progress from where we bottomed out last year at 72-90. And unfortunately, as we try to keep this team on the borderline of respectability off to a 4-7 start in the month of August, so that's not going to get it done. 51-68 is the record, 428 winning percentage. When we look at ownership and their goals, you can see we're right on the borderline of, with our winning percentage, of potentially not sucking completely, or where we are now, sucking completely. So we've got to get that winning percentage probably back up into the 440s. Fortunately, that's not a huge lift, and hopefully we'll be able to play better over the second half of this month of August than we have over the first half, although we got 2 against the Dodgers and 3 against Seattle. I think both of those teams are leading their divisions at this point. Then the Angels, the Rangers, Seattle again, and Texas again before we get to September call-ups, September roster expansion, and perhaps a little bit of help for our roster coming from the minors. And not surprisingly, it ended up being a rough week against the first-place Dodgers and the first-place Mariners. We took 1 out of 2 at home against the Dodgers, and then were swept on the road in Seattle. And with this really rough month of August we've had with just 5 wins sitting here on August 21st, we have fallen back to last place in the American League West. And we have the second worst record in all of the American League, ahead of only the New York Yankees. As far as overall, we also have a better record again than the Cardinals and the Giants, but we had the 4th worst record in baseball last year, and at this point we've got the 4th worst record in baseball this season. So officially we have not improved at all compared to where we were a year ago. And we've actually got a lower winning percentage now than we did last season. So going to have to play better over these last 6 weeks of the season. And it was a mediocre week with a 3-3 record. We lost 2 out of 3 in Los Angeles against the Angels. Then we did win 2 out of 3 against Texas on the road. Back home for the last 4 games of the month against Seattle and Texas. But things are not going well at 55 and 75. And we ended up splitting the last 4 games of the month with Seattle and Texas. So we've been 500 over our last 10 games. Unfortunately, we stunk the beginning part of the month before that. So as we sit here on September 1st, 10-16 record in the month of August has really damaged our chances to get up into the mid-70s in terms of wins. At this point, we've got to win another 15 games just to match the 72 wins that we had a year ago, and that would mean going 15 and 13 over our final 28 games, which would be the best baseball we have played all year. Tied for 13th in the AL in runs scored. The pitching has actually gotten better. We've improved to 3rd in runs allowed. Still have a very good defense. We just are not able to score runs, and you need to score at least 1 run to win any baseball game. We've also gotten a bit unlucky. 57 and 77 is 3 worse than Pythagorean expectations, but not a huge difference. We would go from being a bad team to a well below average team if we had those 3 extra victories this season. And before we desperately look for some help with our September call-ups, we'll check in our buddy Hidero Endo. Oh, Hidero. I think it's possible that his batting average has fallen again for the 5th or the 4th consecutive month. For the year, he's down to a $188. He's already struck out over 200 times here on September 1st, and his WRC plus is barely above league average. He's now less than a win above replacement. So after a pretty solid start in April and a acceptable May, he's basically been a replacement level player for 3 months in a row at this point. And his batting average did continue to plunge. He was 156 in July, dropped to a $152 in August. Did have a little more pop in his bat with 7 homers and 15 ribbies. His OPS was higher. His BABIP plunged to 175, though. Definitely some of the concerns that we had about him are coming through with the number of strikeouts and the inability to get that batting average up above the Mendoza line. Does have 32 homers and 75 ribbies, and he's become a pretty good defensive third baseman, so there are positive aspects in Endo's game, and with the offense that I have, I can't be too hard on a league average offensive player, but he's going to strike out close to 250 times this year if I keep playing him every day. I have backed him off in the lineup a bit. You can see he's batting sixth against both righties and lefties now, trying to keep the almost 50% strikeout rate from having too negative an impact on our already offensively challenged lineup. And we've ended up bringing up one pitcher and three position players here at September call-ups. The left-hander Jesus Soto, who's split the year between AAA and the majors, is back to work as a middle reliever for us. Jordan Romano has not been good. We have taken him out of the stopper role, and he's just going to be a setup man for us the rest of the season. Position player-wise, we brought up three younger players, familiar names. Max Muncy, who's been up and down the last couple years. We've put him into the lineup against left-handed pitchers over Eddys Leonard, who has had just a brutal season for us. Just a .150 batting average, just a .190 BABIP, 25 WRC plus, almost 2 wins below replacement, even though he's only had 214 at-bats. We like his ratings against left-handed pitchers, which is where he's been playing, but even against lefties this year, he has been absolutely brutal with a 17 WRC plus. So we're going to take a look at Muncy. Leonard is also at the point where he's arbitration eligible, set to make a couple million next season, so he could be another easy player to move on from. We brought up Brian Buelvis, the left fielder, and he is going to go into the lineup against left-handed pitching, take Ketel Marte's spot, who's been a disappointment. Buelvis has been up and down the last couple of years with us. And then last but not least, we brought up Samuel Zavala, who we claimed on waivers from the White Sox in November. He split the year between AA and AAA, was pretty productive at both levels. Certainly could be in the mix to be a fourth outfielder for us next year. Solid defensively, decent speed, and the bat should not be embarrassing at the major league level, which for us is a big victory. We had brought up MJ Melendez about a month and a half ago, and he did very little, hitting just 202 with a 60 WRC plus. So we are going to let Mr. Zavala make his major league debut in place of Mr. Melendez against right-handed pitchers over this final month of the season, as we try to hopefully win more games than we lose in the month of September. And we did mercifully get the month of September off to a good start. Swept a series at home against Texas. We've got a tough finish to the homestand against the first place Guardians before we go on the road against the last place Yankees next week. Certainly would love to get out of this upcoming week with a 4-2 record, but it's likely going to mean that we're going to need to take probably all three against the Yankees on the road, which certainly, despite the problems they're having with their season, is not going to be an easy thing for us to do. And we ended up with a 5-1 week inexplicably. Had 9 wins in a row dating back to our victory on the final day of August. Swept Cleveland on the road and then took 2 out of 3 in New York. So similar to last season when there's nothing at all on the line, we've been playing really well in September thus far. I do think, given that we are a low-budget team and I like to platoon as much as possible, the extra players probably does help us a bit in the month of September. Unfortunately, when we have to get down to the 26-man roster, not able to platoon in as many spots. But if we can keep playing this type of baseball over the last 3 weeks of the season, we can get this thing to a respectable finish at least. Not going to be a finish that we're proud of, but hopefully it'll be good enough to ensure that we're back for another season. 3 at the White Sox in Chicago, and then 3 at home against the Padres this week. And it's going to be the final homestand of the season. 3 against the Padres, 3 against the Angels, 3 against the Rangers, before we head out for the final week of the season to the East Coast, where we have 3 in Boston, and then our final 4 in Tampa, including the last game of the year on October 1st. And of course, the A's being the A's, after we're feeling pretty good about things with a 9-game winning streak, we then proceed to lose 4 in a row on the road. Did bounce back and win the first 3 of the homestand here against San Diego, so a 3-3 week. 68-81 record as we sit here on September 18th. So we will need to be a perfect 13-0 the rest of the way to get this team to 500. As fun as that would be, I am not expecting us to finish this season with 16 consecutive victories. So it will be a 5th consecutive losing season for Oakland when all is said and done. And we did take 2 out of 3 in the penultimate homestand of the season against the Angels, but that guarantees a losing record for us at 70-82. 3 against Texas, and then, as I noted, we'll be on the road for the final 7 games of the year against those AL East teams. And as we head into those final 10 games of the season, we are 10 games out of the final wild card spot. So we will likely be eliminated, possibly even today when we're not playing, almost certainly within the next couple of days. We need to be perfect the rest of the way. We need the White Sox to go winless the rest of the way. And then we also need a ton of help from teams who are playing the Twins as well. So not realistic to think we have a chance at making the playoffs, although we did last longer than some teams. Chase Lee still 3rd in the American League with 37 saves, and Kyle Bradish, letting Baltimore do that salary dump with him has worked out really well for us this year. Inexplicably leading the American League in ERA as a 32-year-old after 2 consecutive brutal seasons in Baltimore made them just want to get rid of him. Not expecting him to pitch this way next year, but he'll still be a very reasonable contract for us, and hopefully can give us a good, solid work out of the starting rotation. Feel like I like 4-ish of the starters that we might have back next year, and our bullpen's not bad either at this point. We're going to need to turn over some players, but the focus, as it always needs to be, is going to be on the offense this offseason. And we did win the first game of the final homestand against Texas 4-3, but as expected, we are still officially eliminated from the playoffs. 71 wins now, so hopefully we will at least be higher than the 72 we were a year ago, and it would be nice to get up to that 75, 76 kind of number to at least demonstrate some small measure of progress despite another disappointing season for the Oakland Athletics. And we did end up winning the final homestand as well, taking the first 2 against Texas before losing the final game of the season in Oakland. So final homestand was 7-2. Certainly can't complain about that. 72-83 with 7 games to go. So as we think about what this very mediocre playthrough has done for us, have the opportunity with 1 win to be better than a year ago. And even if we win out, we aren't going to get to the 80 wins we had 2 seasons ago in the most successful year we had. Would certainly love to get to 76 wins. That would represent at least 4 wins better than a year ago, give us a nice finish to the season in the month of September, and give us a winning road trip against the playoff-bound Red Sox and the playoff-bound Rays. So certainly not going to be an easy matchup for us facing those two teams, as they are in the middle of a very bitter battle to see which team will win the AL East this year and which team is going to have a first-round bye. And although we won the first game in Boston, we ended up losing 2 out of 3 in the series. So we'll see if hopefully we can at least split these final 4 games with Tampa. Obviously, would love to win 3 or 4 of them, but if we split those final 2 with Tampa, that'll at least get us to 75 wins, which was kind of a number that we talked about at the start of the episode as a number that would help us feel like this season was not a complete and utter failure. And unfortunately, as those of you who have followed this series know, the Oakland A's are not allowed to have nice things. We conclude the season with 6 consecutive losses, lost all 4 in Tampa Bay to finish off the season. So at 73 and 89, only 1 game better than we were a year ago. The Rays half game up on the Red Sox, but the Rays may have to make up 1 more game. I'm not sure how they're going to handle that. It looks like they've only played 161 at this point. Not a great year. 23 out in the AL West. As I noted, was feeling good about things with the way that month of September went, and then you lose 6 in a row. Bradish did end up easily leading the American League in earned run average, so we'll take a small measure of comfort in the fact that he'll be back with us next year and hopefully can put up a similar season for us on the mound. But with those 6 straight losses and our goal to not suck completely, we were in the blue just a couple of days ago, so I think we just made it to the point where we're not going to do as well in that. We didn't suck completely, but it would have been nice to have a blue success there rather than green kind of successful. We did get to green as far as our important increase attendance goal, so at least we made a little progress there. Haven't acquired a top player, and haven't gotten anything out of our international amateurs. So it'll be very interesting to see what type of evaluation we get from Mr. Fisher after the playoffs are complete for a 5th consecutive year. We will not be a part of those playoffs. And we will do our full season recap in our next episode. But since Hidero Endo has been such a discussion point this season, need to see what he ended up with in his rookie year. And he finished hitting a .188, so that actually means he probably did finally stop the trend of his batting average getting worse every month of the season. There are some definite positives. 37 homers and 107 ribbies are pretty nice numbers for a $3 million salary. But there are some massive negatives as well. The 188 batting average, the 293 on-base percentage, prominent among them. And, of course, 252 strikeouts by Mr. Endo. So struck out in very close to half of his major league at-bats. When all was said and done, 101 OPS plus, 99 WRC plus, so he is almost perfectly a league average offensive player, and he ended up with a 1.1 WAR for us this year, so he was slightly above replacement level, which at 73 and 89, most of the guys on the A's this year are slightly above replacement level to get us to that type of record. Take a look at the splits over the month of September. Did get the batting average up to 200, got the OPS back up over 700, and he was pretty much a league average player this month offensively after 3 consecutive pretty rough months for the 29-year-old Japanese import blanks Endo. So as we think about Endo's first season in the major leagues, those of you who were big fans of Endo, you can grab onto those 37 homers and the 87 ribbies that he put up for us, and he did walk 70 times. Those numbers are all among the best or the best on this below-average Oakland A's team. There was a large contingent of us who were more negative on Endo, myself included, and we will latch on to the 188 batting average, well below the Mendoza line, the 293 on base percentage, and the ridiculous 252 strikeouts. And when you kind of balance it all out, he was a league average offensive player who was a win above replacement. It wasn't horrible, but it certainly wasn't good either. Going to have some interesting decisions to make about him and some of our other infielders this upcoming offseason. And with that, we will call it a season. 73 and 89, fourth place, did avoid the basement. Guess we should take a look at where our record was overall. We were better than the Angels. We were better than the Royals. We were better than the Yankees and the Blue Jays. We were better than the Pirates. We were better than the Cardinals. We were better than the Padres, and we were better than the Giants. So we had the fourth worst record in baseball a year ago, although we only won one more game this season. If I'm doing my quick math correctly, we had the 8th worst record in baseball this year. So if we keep improving at that level in 2059, until our next episode, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.